This is how to make Instant Pot beans, which are typically faster than making beans the traditional way, because in a pressure cooker you can cook at higher pressures and temperatures. So we want our beans to have really good flavor, and so that means we're going to add a couple of things to them. We're going to start with an onion, and we'll probably add some garlic and other spices, and I'll show you that. But first you have to remove the onion skin. So once we've removed the skin, cut off the ends of the onion. It helps if you have a sharp knife, but you can cut it with a more dull knife. This also gives us two roughly flat surfaces that you can work with. And then you're gonna cut like this, cut into a cross. And the onions have this kind of separated, segmented structure that's gonna help us as we're cutting things. So now we have the onion turned sideways, and we're gonna start cutting this way. And I'll show you what this looks like once we're done. So our goal here is we wanna have really even pieces, because if you don't have even pieces, they're gonna not cook at the same rate, and you're gonna have some pieces that'll be overcooked and some that will be burnt. So here's the Instant Pot. It has its lid off right now, and we're gonna press the saute button right here. And you'll hear it beep in just a second. So we're gonna add some cooking oil. We're gonna use this to saute our onions, to brown them, and that's gonna give a lot of flavor. So you can see right here we have 16 ounces or 1 pound of pinto beans. Dry beans can have some dirt or rocks in them, and we wanna make sure that they've been rinsed thoroughly before we use them. So I can feel with the back of my hand, which is really sensitive, that this has already started to heat up in here. And so we're gonna go ahead and add our onions. Just stir them around. We just want them to get coated in the oil. And there's kind of two things that you're gonna see happen with the color of the onions. One, they're gonna become kind of lightly translucent, and that's a good indicator that they're cooking and cooked through. And then the second thing that we're gonna look for is we want them to be lightly brown, because that's gonna bring a lot of really good flavor into our beans. So just a quick cooking tip in general, while you're waiting for things to cook, like the onions, and waiting for them to brown, you can start working on other things. For instance, the brown rice here. So brown rice takes longer to cook than white rice, and there's usually cooking instructions on the back. So this has instructions on the back, and you can just follow those for a really easy way of cooking it. And I always recommend adding some salt. So we're gonna need 6 cups of water for our rice. That's 4 cups. Go ahead and get that going on the back here, so it's starting to heat. Again, heating and cooling things is what takes the longest a lot of times in cooking. So if you can multitask while things are cooking, that'll decrease your cook time. Okay, it looks like we're gonna need a bigger pot.
You're gonna need a bigger pot.
And you need a pot with a lid on it, because rice is not like pasta. You're gonna use all of the water that's in your pot, so you have to have your ratios right. On here, it's basically giving a 2-to-1 ratio. I'm not as well acquainted with brown rice, so that may be more correct. I like to do 1.5 cups of water to every 1 cup of white rice. We just added 6 cups of water, so we're gonna do 3 cups of rice. So while we're waiting for our water to boil with the rice, we have our salt ready, our rice ready. This is a 1 cup measurement. We're gonna come back over here. We see these are they're browning. We don't want them to get burnt. So once you start to see that really good color develop, you can see that browning at the bottom. That's good, that's what you wanna see. Everything's translucent, nothing's like hard. They're getting soft, the onions are. We're gonna basically stop the onions from cooking as quickly by adding our water that we need for the beans. So it says to cook 1 pound of beans, we need 6 cups of water. There's 2 more cups. And we can go ahead and actually add our beans next. You need salt. Food does not taste good without salt. Even sweet things sometimes do not taste as good without salt. So a tablespoon of salt for this much. Maybe that's too much, I don't know. But I just added some salt. All right, so we're gonna add 3 additional spices other than our salt. We're gonna add garlic powder, chili powder, and cumin. Just gonna add that. It's easier to under season than to over season. Unless you just really don't like strong flavors. More concerned with under seasoning than over seasoning. So now we're gonna turn it off of saute. You just press the cancel button. And what we're gonna do is we're gonna use manual mode because we wanna control the amount of time. So right now that's 12 minutes. And if you hit this plus button, this is how long it's gonna cook once it gets to full pressure. And so it'll cook beforehand, but this is how long it'll cook afterwards. Now, you can probably cook less than this, but again, because if you don't cook beans thoroughly, they can make you really gassy. I try to cook them for at least an hour at full pressure. It's not really a big deal cooking them for longer because it'll automatically turn off. And then what I do is I put the lid on. You'll hear that sound. It's a little hard to slot on. And you're gonna lock it in place. This white piece should be facing the ceiling thing. It was venting because I didn't have it lined up properly. So our water for our rice is heating up. We're gonna add some salt because salt makes things taste good. The second cup of rice. Brown rice is more healthy for you because it still has the bran on the outside of the grain of rice, and it also takes longer to cook. So it's a trade-off. So you're just gonna put all that in there, mix it so all the rice is covered. Stir it since it's not boiling yet a couple of times. It doesn't stick to the bottom. And you're gonna put your lid on because we don't want that water evaporating, because again, our ratio of rice to water is really important. So when in doubt, consult the back of your bag of rice or beans to know your cook time. So it says 45 to 50 minutes. And now we just wait for the beans and the rice to cook. You have to leave for work or something, you can set those things up and then you come back and your food's ready at the end of the day. So I'll show you what that looks like whenever both of them are cooked. So I made a little bit of a mistake whenever I was cooking the rice. I think I may have burned the bottom because I wasn't paying very much attention. Scoop the top off and you can check it for flavor. So hopefully this whole batch wasn't ruined. Hopefully it's just the bottom. So the Instant Pot will have a timer that goes off and it'll keep your food warm typically whenever it's done. But I'm just gonna show you how you vent it whenever the timer does go off. You wanna move this over from venting or sealing to venting. I forgot to mention you can turn off the Instant Pot, that way it's not continuing to heat the beans in there and add pressure. And there are your beans.